Hey everyone, this is Brian from ActiveMelody.com. Well, in this week's guitar lesson, I'm going to show you how to create a melody out of playing chords. So we're going to be playing a series of chords all over the neck, and we're going to pull a little melody line out of those chords. And I'm going to show you how that's done. It's actually not that difficult. And so you'll be able to do that too with your own melodies if you want. If you want to create your own compositions in this style, you'll find that it's really not that difficult. So this is all done over a 2-5-1 jazz progression with a dominant 6 chord thrown in there. I'm going to explain what all that is in this as well, so if you're not sure what that means, we'll cover that as well. So we're going to break this down over 2 videos. In this video we're going to take a look at the first half. If you'd like to watch the second half as well as have access to the on-screen tab viewer and be able to download the tab file so you can print it off, you can get all of that at ActiveMelody.com. Just look for EP139. That's a lesson number for this lesson. So let's go ahead and get started with part 1. Alright, so we're going to spend just a few minutes at the beginning of this video talking through a little bit of theory. I want you to understand how these chords work together. To demystify some of this jazz stuff, sometimes it sounds really complicated, but you'll find that it's actually not. It does follow a formula, just like blues. You know, we have a 1-4-5 chord progression. Well, in jazz, there's often a 2-5-1 progression. Same kind of numbering system, obviously, but you're using different numbers in a different order, and it resolves in a different way. So if you don't know what I mean when I talk about the number system, I did cover that in last week's lesson at the beginning. You go to EP138. You can either, if you're on YouTube and watching this, I'll put a link in the description below, or if you're on the Active Melody website, I'll put a link on this page. And you're going to want to go to about 3 minutes into that video. I don't spend a lot of time on it, but I do explain what the numbers are and how they relate to the major scale. So you'll understand what I mean when I say a 2-5-1 chord progression. Now I'm going to assume you know what that means at this point. So okay, so the 2 chord is always it's a minor 7. It's always a minor chord. But in this case, this song, by the way, is in B flat. So here's your B flat. That's your 1 chord. But so the 2 chord, if that's your 1 chord, the 2 chord, remember, is always a minor. So we're going to play a minor 7 chord. And you can play, so I'm playing a C minor 7, and I'm playing it here. Now what's nice about this, and I'll kind of go into this as I talk it through, but you can substitute, if you don't want to play a C minor 7 here, you could play it here or wherever else on the neck, or you could play any extension off of that C minor 7. So you're not just locked into a C minor 7. Just stay in a minor and within the 2 chord, and you'll be able to work out something. So play around with that. Find some different voicings for the C minor 7, and then find some extensions you could add on to that, and you could start to see how you could convert this into something that sounds completely different. So anyway, the 2 chord is the minor 7. The 5 chord is a dominant 7. But basically a dominant 7 is a flatted 7th. So if we're talking about the scale do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, that would be your 7. So in this song, the F is a dominant 7. So we're going to flat that. That's a dominant 7. That's just an F7. If you see that, usually if there's not a major 7 in front of it, it's just an F7. That's a dominant 7. That's all that means. So the second chord, which is a 5 chord, is a dominant chord. So that's in this song, since we're in the key of B flat, your F, which is the 5th, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, there's your F, is a dominant 7. And then the 1 chord is a major 7. So you play a major 7 chord, which resolves nicely, and that's a B flat major 7. So I'm going to get into the specific fingerings and explain all of that, but I did want to just cover that. That's the formula. So for the 5 chord, for that dominant 7, what I'm doing, instead of playing an F7, a proper F7 like that, is I'm playing an F7 flat 9. And all you do for that is you take the 9 and you flat it. So the 9 would be here normally. So I moved it down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. There's your 9. So you move it down 1 and add it to the F7, and that's an F7 flat 9. And so that's just a nice sounding chord that you can slide. And it resolves in a different way to go back to the 1 chord if you add that flat 9. It has a more of a I don't know, it's a stronger pull, I guess. So a lot of this is just the tensions you create by playing with different chords, and that's really up to you as the player. So play around with that. If you don't want to do that, you can just play an F7, and that will work as well. Okay, so that's a little bit of theory. Let's get into the specifics, and I'll cover a little more of this as we go. So the first thing that I played is a C minor 7 chord, barring the third fret, all 6 strings. My middle finger goes down on the 4th fret, 2nd string. Ring finger goes down on the 5th fret, 4th string. And we're playing strings 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. There's your first chord. Nice, easy chord to make. It sounds great. Now what I wanted to do, since I know that the chord progression is 2, 5, 1, so that's the first chord. The next chord I know is that F7, the F dominant 7. So that would be one way I could have done it, but it seems too, didn't seem, I don't know, it just seemed too predictable, I guess, to go there. So instead of doing that, I started playing around with some different positions, and I came up with this, the F7 flat 9, and I realized you can always slide this chord. You can always go up 1, 2, 3 frets from wherever you start it, and it's the same chord each time, and it just keeps working up the neck. There's 3 frets in between that, so it's a nice easy chord to slide. So I played with it here because I've got the C minor 7 there, and I thought, well, that's kind of nice. But then if you slide it up to here, you start to create a little bit of a melody, because if you listen to that note, it rings out of the C minor 7. So now I've got that, and I've got that. So I just connected the two by going, and using my pinky to just, on the first string, to connect those two. And you can see it's very easy to make this chord if your pinky's already in position anyway, and it just flows naturally. So that melody just kind of came out of, I don't know, it's probably something else that I've heard. But so let me show you that. So I've showed you the C minor 7. Then I put my pinky down on the 6th fret 1st string, and then I slid it up to the 8th fret 1st string, and this is where we're going to make that F7 flat 9 chord. And the way you make this chord is pinky's on the 1st string, what is that, the 8th fret. Your ring finger goes down on the 3rd string, 8th fret, so those 2 string fingers are in the same fret. Then these 2 fingers go down in the same fret, but they're going down on the 7th fret. So your middle finger goes down on the 7th fret 2nd string, and your index finger goes down on the 7th fret 4th string. It's a little box shape. And just remember, you can slide this thing all over. So that's where that came from. Now the next chord, so that's your 2 chord, your 5 chord. Now we're going to the 1 chord. The 1 chord, that's your major 7 chord, real jazzy sounding chord. Let me explain what that means when I say a major 7 chord. The 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, that note, you put it into the chord. So you can hear how those two clash. There's the root, or the tonic, and there's your 7. So it just creates kind of a weird feel, but you associate that sound, or I do, with jazz. You hear that a lot. Very commonly used chord in jazz. So instead of just playing that chord exactly like that, I wanted to keep that melody line going, so I just played around, find a chord book. There's a lot of there's chord information all over the internet, and just look up a B flat major 7 chord, and look at all the ways that you can play it. If you don't have a chord book, you can just work it out yourself. You can look at the notes and pull them out of that chord, and then pull them out of the chord that you know, and just find a different place for it. So where I ended up was here, which is kind of a cool looking chord, because your fingers are just stacked like stairs. So it's kind of easy to get to in your mind. It's not so easy to play if you're not used to playing this chord, but after a few times of practicing, you can do it. So here's how that chord is made. Index finger on the 5th fret 1st string, middle finger's on the 6th fret 2nd string, ring finger's on the 7th fret 3rd string, and then your pinky, if you can work the pinky in. If you can't, you can leave it off. But if you can work it in, that goes down the 8th fret 4th string. And that's a B major 7 chord, played like that. Same chord as this one, which we're going to get to in a minute. I'm going to show you how to play that. So what's nice about this, though, is you've got this, which is part of your melody line. So I came down and played that, and then I played the full chord. Okay, so now after that, I kept the chord down and just played the 2nd string. Then I took my pinky and came up here and played the 8th fret 2nd string. So you have, and again you hear the melody. Then it came up here and went. Now this is where I'm breaking out of the 2-5-1, and I think I mentioned this at the very beginning of this video. But 2-5-1, 2-5-1, 2-5-1. That's the progression. But sometimes to break it up, or to give it a different way to resolve, you can work in the 6th chord and make it a dominant 7 chord. So what I'm doing, the 6th chord in this case would be a G. So it'd be a G7 chord. I'm just playing it up here, which is a G9. But that's just the reason I'm doing that is because it works. This note works right into that melody. So back from the start, we have. You can see how that just plays right into the melody. Now, again, this is the kind of thing that the way you want to do this, if you're wanting to compose something, is just find the chords, put them in that 2-5-1 progression, and start figuring out. The melody will kind of pop out oftentimes. Like you might not even have. I didn't even have this melody in my head, but as I was kind of working them with the chords, it started to kind of jump off the page a little bit, and then it will tell you where to go. So you'll hear something in your head and think, how do I build a chord around that melody that I'm hearing? So this chord, this is the G9, and I'm making this is kind of like the D7 chord shape. You know, I use this example a lot, but if you make a D7 down in 1st position, you're making that same thing here so that your middle finger and ring finger are both on the 10th fret. That's on the 5th string. This finger is on the 3rd string. Your index finger is on the 9th fret 4th string. And then you just put your pinky down on the 10th fret 2nd string. That's your G9 chord. Now we're going to use this same chord shape again in a couple of other places as we make an F9 here in a minute. Let's back up and isn't that nice? It just resolves really nicely there. Now what we're going to do from this point, so the chords were 2, 5, 1, 6. This is the 6th chord, but it's a dominant 7 version of the 6th chord. Now if you didn't like the way that melody works out, find another way to play a G7. Find it somewhere else, or a G9. You could do a G6. You could do any of those versions of a G with a number, as long as it doesn't have, as long as it's not minor or like a major 7, as long as it's just like a dominant, it'll work. Okay, so what's after that? So then I go back to the 2 chord. Now we're going to play 2, 5, and then 1, and we're going to resolve on the 1. So the cadence is 2, 5, 1, 6, 2, 5, 1. And then that whole block of what I just said repeats. 2, 5, 1, 6, 2, 5, 1. So now we're going back and we're going to the 2 again. So this is the C minor 7, but this time instead of coming down here, which I could have done, actually that's how I originally had it, and then as I was working out the tab I realized it's easier to play it here. Because you just played the F9 here, so you got to be strategic. It's easier to less movement if you just play it here. So what I'm doing is I'm barring the first, or actually all strings here on the 8th fret, and then my ring finger goes down on the 10th fret, 5th string. That's a C minor 7 chord. Just a different way to play it. You played it here before, now you're playing it here. So then what I played for the melody, so I played the whole chord, then I put my pinky down on the 10th fret 3rd string, and then I took my pinky off, and that's the 2nd string, which is behind the bar here on the 8th fret. So that's the melody. And then I came down and went. Now that's the same chord shape as we just learned, that G9, but we're down 2 frets, so it's an F9. Remember, think of the format, so 2, 5, 1. So your 2 chord is that C minor 7, then the 5, there's your F. Instead of playing an F7, which I could have done, I'm playing F9. So we know how to finger that, and there's the note that's out of the melody, and then it resolves on this, which is just the B flat chord, B flat major chord. So okay, let's back up. We'll play it up to this point. We have. And then since the song at this point, that's the break. Now we're going to just repeat after this. So I wanted to throw in a little bit of bluesy solo there, just to give it kind of a nudge to the blues. I always like to work some blues stuff in to everything I do. And that's what I did. I played right out of the minor pentatonic scale, pattern 1, which would be, so we're in the key of B flat, remember? This is your root fret, wherever you're barring, so that's what pattern 1 would look like. So I went. Now I'm overlapping the major pentatonic scale with the minor pentatonic scale for some of these notes, and I know most of you know that. I have a whole video on that on Active Melody if you're not sure what I mean when I say mixing the major and minor. Really important, but I'm just mixing the major pentatonic scale pattern 2 with minor pentatonic scale pattern 1 at this point. Let me show you the notes. So so after we play the B flat, I'm going to slide up with my middle finger here on the 3rd string, 7th to the 7th fret. Then I'm going to play the 6th fret 2nd string, 8th fret 2nd string, and then watch this. There's a little hammer on, or you could hit 2 strings if you want, but the hammer on goes between the 6th fret and the 7th fret on the 3rd string. Then we're going to come down to the 8th fret 4th string, 6th fret 4th string, and then that last note is on the 7th fret 5th string. And you can just tell that's that bluesy minor pentatonic scale mixing in a little bit of major pentatonic scale when you play notes like that. But I thought that kind of worked nicely to break it up as you stop there. Then we came back, and the second time through, I went same exact thing that we did before, but this time I slid the chord up in 2 places. And that's just taking that same chord shape, and as I explained, we're going to skip 2 frets and go up 3 frets. And that's the same exact chord. You can just keep sliding it. It's kind of cool that works that way. So that would just give you a little bit of a variation on the melody. Then I played, so remember we had the 2, the 5, that's the 5. And now we're going to go back to the 1, and I'm going to play the the B flat major 7. I'm going to play it like this instead of down here or like that. And the way that I'm doing that is I'm barring with my pinky. Some of you may want to use your ring finger, but I'm on the 10th fret, the first 3 strings, and then I just take my index finger and come down here on the 8th fret, 4th string, and I'm playing the chord that way. So that's another way to voice a B flat major 7 chord, and that works with that melody a lot better than this other. So that way I can go. So I can play that chord, then the 3rd string, which is right out of the chord. Oh, by the way, we're playing 4 strings. 4, 3, 2, and 1. Then take your finger off here and play the 2nd string behind the bar here on the 8th fret. And then watch this. Back to that G9 chord. So you can hear the melody in that. It's going. Sorry. That's what the melody's doing. So. And then we're back to that C minor 7th. This time I'm going to go with my pinky up here on the 10th fret 2nd string, and then slide it up to the 11th fret also on the 2nd string. So then we play this chord, and again I'm just following the same format. So this is the 5 chord, so that's your F. This is an F6 chord, and the way you'd really make that chord would be something like this, but since I'm just playing it to get to the next chord, I just wanted to make it easy on myself. And so let me show you how to do this. So I'm playing, I'm barring the first 4 strings here on the 7th fret, and I'm playing strings 3 and 4. And then I got my middle finger down on the 8th fret 5th string. And that's all I'm pulling out of that chord. It's an F6 chord. If you wanted to add another note, you would do this with these fingers, and then you'd add a note here on the 6th fret 2nd string. Be a more proper way to do it, but that's how I did it. And that's another little takeaway. You don't always have to make. If you're struggling with some of these chords, don't make the whole chord. Just make what you can out of it. A lot of comping that happens, jazz comping, is playing just 2 notes. You're just playing the middle notes out of a chord. So you don't have to kill yourself trying to make these chords. Just do what you can. And that last chord, it resolves then on back to the 1 chord, which is the B flat chord. Okay, so and then it goes through another cycle at this point, and I've got some different variations on it. With some different voicings to give you more ideas. Now that's going to be in the part 2 video. I'm not going to cover that in this, but I think I've given you a lot of good material to at least get you started understanding how these chords work together, why they work together, and how you can pull a melody out of that. So what I would encourage you to do is to take these chords and substitute them with other voicings. And when I say a voicing, I'm talking about playing it in a different place on the neck. So find a different place to play the B flat major 7, all the different places you can do it. And what will happen as you're playing it in different places, you'll hear different melodies kind of start to pop out. And when you do, your job then just becomes to fill in the blank in the blank spaces. Kind of like I did when I had this chord. In this chord, I heard this. So it was natural to go to fill in the blank with these notes, and that's how you're going to want to think about it. So see what melodies you can come up with. Another challenge for you would be to take all of this and then put it in a different key. Instead of being in B flat, put it in B. Move everything up a half step. And what that forces you to do is to really understand the number systems. And it's not about memorizing specific frets anymore. It's about understanding the number system and how this whole thing is movable. It's a big slidable thing. All right, let me go through the whole first half of this. Make sure, if you want to download the tablature, make sure you check out Premium Membership. You can download the tab. You have the on-screen tab viewer, which is a great feature. And then there's a slow walkthrough video as well. So, all right, so here we go from the start.